Hello, it's a beautiful spring day here. Lots of snow still. Just packing up the rest of my tools for this job I did on this flooring project in this house. It's about a 1,900, 2,000 square foot home. Kind of like a story and a half idea. Built in the 70s. I have pulled out all the original flooring, which is a mixture of hardwood, vinyl, and carpet. And we put in all new pre-finished flooring. It's a 1/2-inch engineered maple. So I'll take you on a little tour here and you can take a look, and then I'll show you some tips and stuff on how the progress came along and how everything went. So just kind of finished cleaning up here, and it's the first time it's totally completed, so you can see. This is the one front small kind of sitting room or bedroom or whatever it might be. We ran it all here, so it's obviously underneath the carpet. This was vinyl out here before, and then it went into carpet at this door, and then carpet shooting down that hall. And then this was another old hardwood in here that we got rid of for this hand scraped 1/2-inch floor. So this stuff turned out pretty nice, looks good. The kitchen was a vinyl, and they wanted the flooring all throughout the kitchen, and because it's an engineered, it can go in a kitchen if you're careful with it. So you can see it's nicely in underneath everything and all the appliances. Put in a new dishwasher, ran it all right underneath, of course, so the height was all correct. And then it goes back to some older carpet back here, which is eventually to be tiled, I presume. So this is part of it here. If I walk down this way, you'll see. So yeah, this was an original old 3/4 inch hardwood that was just in really rough shape. This is down this hall here. This just leads to the basement area, so this just cuts off right past there with a piece of stair nosing. And then down here, obviously throughout all the closets properly the way it should be, all undercut properly underneath everything. You know, nice job done overall. Overall flooring covering everything. Then it goes into a bathroom here where it stops, and then another larger bedroom area where you can really get a good idea of this flooring in the right light. You can see the texture of the hand scrape. It's a fairly nice flooring. They went with a metal grate instead of a wood one. None of the wood ones really they like the look of, so we went with a metal one. Obviously backing into both his or her closets, of course, the wood floor. So inside everything. This was a good, just nearly 1,200 square feet of flooring that we put in. It's hard to tell from the video, but you know, these are sizable. Like this living room, dining room area by the kitchen is something like 30 feet or something ridiculous by like 14 or 16 feet or something. So it's pretty large area. And you know, as you can see, it all went throughout. Turned out really nice. Basically the whole main floor minus the carpeted part back here, and both bathrooms are already ceramic tile. There's a bathroom back that way, and then there's another bathroom down that hall. So it just kind of gives you an idea. So yeah, that's the finished product anyway, and I think it turned out pretty nice. Everything looks pretty appropriate. This is all going to be painted white eventually once the painters come in here, and because that was up before and it looked decent against the carpet, and then against the wood it looks a little strange now. Guys, just on my way to pick up the flooring for the project. It's going to be dark by the time I get there, so I figured I'd just turn my camera on and do a bit of a driving bad here. Well, I guess not really, but yeah, I'm going to pick up the pallets for the flooring. It's around 1,200 square feet, and it weighs in about 2,000 pounds. I've got my trailer. That's not going to work. I got my trailer back there. You can see her hanging out back there, so that's going to throw the pallets on that. I've got about a 40-minute drive to go get the hardwood to where it was shipped, and about 1 hour drive or so to the job site to drop it off and let it sit in the house for a good few days before installation. So here I go, and if the forklift tips over or something, I'll make sure I turn my camera on. Okay, so I'm here at the project site here, and I'm trying to get a little bit of info recorded for you before my crew arrives tomorrow for installation. We'll talk about subfloor and prep in a moment, but first we're going to go over basic tools needed to complete a job like installing hardwood flooring. So I'll start on this side of the room here. Small compressor, some kind of compressor. This is just a loaner because mine has actually a broken line right now. So you're going to need your air compressor for sure. Miter saw of some kind with a stand. A form of a finishing nailer. This is a pass load finishing nailer. It's not brad nails. It's a little heavier gauge finishing nail. Some form of inexpensive basic bench or table saw. That should work fine. A hardwood floor cleat nailer or stapler with ammo. Now the floor we're installing, I'll show you that as well shortly, but the floor we're installing is 1/2 inch, and it's engineered. So the manufacturer's directions, which again you'll hear me say that many times, recommends staple, glue, or float of this installation. And because we have a nice, pretty solid subfloor in this house, and I'm a little old school, I'm opting to staple. These are 1.5 inch staple, and that's what it calls for, the manufacturer. They fit in that Boss Stitch stapler, which I've had for quite a while, and that's what secures your floor. So have a bunch of fasteners. You're going to need some kind of tool, more than likely for undercutting jams. This is about the most inexpensive way to do it, is the vibration style tool like this. You can pick one of those up for like 30 bucks. Like, this is a pretty inexpensive tool right here. And it's not something I use very often, so I didn't buy a real premium grade one. Like I said, I only do this now more hobby than anything. No more full-time for me. Now, this is for, these are the wrong nails, but this is for securing the subfloor if you need additional subfloor securing. So I've brought that just to tack some extra nails. This house was built in 1979. Here we are in 2014. Some of the nails have come loose, so I'm going to go every 6 inches along all the joists and just kind of retighten everything down with just a new nail. Just a little extra secure, but you could use screws as well. The nails are just quicker for this particular project. You will need a jigsaw. You'll need possibly some pliers and side cutters for pulling up nails or screws. This is a contour tool. So it's for making certain cuts. It may not be needed in here, but it's a good flooring tool. So if you have a contour around something and you push this up against it, it will form the contour around what you're doing, like that, like the edge of the plier. So that's good for that. You're going to need a series of pencils, as well as eye protection and hearing protection. Chalk line, lubricant for your air tools, some basic carpenter squares and that kind of thing for keeping a straight line on for your certain cuts. You can use many different kinds of tools for that, so just pick something. I've got a series of them in my handbag. I just brought out the basics here to show you. Small pry bar, a little bit larger cat's paw style pry bar. A series of rubber nylon mallets, putty stick for when you're doing some face nailing, obviously tape measure, knee pads, and there are some other things that you'll need as well, and I'm sure I'm forgetting, but these are the absolute basics for doing this. So, you know, you count and you're going to need a pretty good amount of tools. So this may rule out this job for a do-it-yourselfer, or you might say, hey, all I got to do is buy a finishing nailer, for example. And my particular one's a pass load. It runs off those little fuel cells. But because you got air when you're doing your flooring anyway, you could easily choose like a pneumatic one and run it fully off air. So just to show you here, we have stripped down all the original. This was carpet in this area. Some other areas of the house was already hardwood, which we've actually stripped out. And there's a nice solid plywood over everything, nailed down. A couple areas are a little squeaky and bouncy from the nails coming up, nothing too bad. So this is what we have to work with for a subfloor. And this is a room we're going to start in here. Without seeing a map of the house, it's hard to tell, but you should always map out your house to see where you're going to start, how your joints and your tongues are going to line up, and how that's going to work for you. So this is the product that we're going to be installing. It's been sitting in the house now so it can get used to the house, even though this manufacturer actually recommended that it didn't require any sitting time in the house. But this is a 1/2 inch with 2mm veneer, engineered hardwood product. Like I said, it's a glue, a staple, or a float system. So depending on where you're installing it, whether it be on concrete slab or whatever, this is a hand scrape product. So you can't really tell on this board or with this camera, but there's actually a little bit of nice texture to it, and it's slightly it looks like it has a little bit of wear already, even though it's new. Oh, you can kind of see it here. You can see the areas there. It's a pretty nice looking product. I'll put the product description in the pages. It's about 1,200 square feet or so for this project. So, that's also some of what you need. So basically what we're doing is this is a front sitting room. So it's going to start in here against this back wall. Okay, it's going to come outward through this door and going to continue out so it can go around here and down this hallway. And then in this hallway in the closets, it's going to change directions and go forward in these closets. Walking down this hallway, it's going to go, this is a bathroom on the right. There's no wood going in there. But in here, too dark, this is another large bedroom. There's actually no light in there right now to show you. I'll have to show you tomorrow. This bedroom's about 16 by 13. So when the floor comes this way, all my tongues are going to be facing this way, starting still from the other room. And then what we'll do here is we'll do a slip tongue here, and we'll start facing the wood this way to go into this large room. Coming back in this way. This is the room we were just in. This is the front entrance. The wood's going to carry on through here. And then you can see in this room here, the wood will come in here, and we have more of the product stacked here. So it's going to come in here and continue on, and then all the way into the kitchen area, but we'll deal with that later. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get all the furniture out of the house, but all the small stuff's gone. So this stuff can be moved easily as we go along. We did lay a thin sheet of aspenite here to bring this area, because this area was originally hardwood, to bring it up to the level of the rest of the floor. So now we have one level of really nice, straight, flat, continuous floor to put our hardwood in. Okay, so here's what we did. Walls are never straight. Don't ever trust the walls. Rooms are never square. I've put down some craft paper, and this is what the manufacturer calls for. And remember, back to that manufacturer thing, it's all about the manufacturer. So I put down this craft paper, and I snapped a chalk line. You could see the chalk line there. Now what that chalk line represents is I measure from the other side of the room to here, and made sure everything was straight on that side of the room. And then I measured to the wall as a reference and made sure everything was good. I made a little bit of a correction based on the other wall, but that line is actually snapped from the far wall, this one on this side. So I strung a tape across the room and snapped that. That's going to be my reference point. So the craft paper is put down with just a couple staples, just enough to hold it. The subfloor below is free of nail pops and issues, and we're going to go ahead and start putting our first course down. When you install the first course, it's important to make sure that it is proper and square, and again, don't use the wall as your template. But luckily, the manufacturer in this case calls for a 1/4 inch expansion or sorry, 3/4 inch expansion. There's a half inch for the drywall. So and then the drywall's up. So your expansion can actually take place in here. So technically I can install this right even with the drywall, but because the trim's big enough, I'm going to bring it out a little less than half an inch all the way around and use a piece as a guide point. But for your first board installation, take your tape measure and set your gaps on your very first board. Now tongue is out, tongue is toward me. So take your measurement on your first board to your tape. Make sure your expansion's proper. It looks like it's pretty much bang on 5.5. And then you go to the other side of your first board and make it 5.5. And check that gap to the wall. That goes in a little bit, so I'm gonna straighten it up a bit and split the difference and make sure that this is perfect and that this side measures this side while still leaving your proper expansion. And then you do that to one entire course, make sure there's no wows in the wall that won't allow for that. And then you start your face nailing process on your first course. As easy as that. Okay, so here, before I get too far ahead of myself here getting going, I will just give you a quick idea how that first course went down. The first course goes down, obviously measured off that chalk line to the course to make sure it's perfect. I was able to actually get, when I read the instructions, it's only half an inch needed for expansion and contraction joints on the wall. So I was able to put it almost butted up to the drywall in some areas, to where the drywall is, and then it's half-inch drywall, because if you can see in this house, the drywall is up higher. So it's actually gonna work out really, really well. So these first courses here, I took my nailer, and for the very first course, once I lined everything up, double and triple check my chalk line reference point from the chalk line to the first board. I take my pass load and I put every 6 inches finishing nail. Then I took the putty stick and I rubbed the putty stick on the hole until it was filled, wipe away the excess, and you can't see the nail holes. So every 6 inches along the drywall is a nail. Then along the tongue of the first course, so in here, that's already covered, actually we'll go over here to show you, I put a nail every 6 inches on a 45-degree angle with my finishing nailer here. So every 6 inches, there's a nail going in on a 45. Then I took the second course, I took the piece I cut from the end there, rolled it back over here to this end, and put the started nailing. This time, none needed in the face because the tongue and groove will hold that down. Only nailing on a 45 into the board here. So all the way across, and had to start cutting out for register. You'll find this is where your table saw comes into play here, your bench saw is when things like this happen. I also am running some, you can see here, I haven't filled it yet, face nail just for here to make sure that this doesn't lift along here. Not only will that be covered by the grate, because the customer in this case picked a black style, iron looking style grates for all the registers, instead of going with, say, wood or just the standard steel ones. So what this looks like here, I'll show you these at these 45 nails I was talking about. So here's a set of these nails that are in that nailer. They're just a 16 gauge finishing nail. They're a little heavier than your average 18-inch brad nail or 18 gauge brad nail, which I wouldn't suggest for this. You need something a little heavier and stronger. When your boards are down on the floor like this, and you're nailing them at a 45, they're going in the tongue and going into the floor, something like that. Here we are, part of the way down the floor. A couple things I wanted to point out when installing the hardwood floor is your joints going this way. You want to watch, you don't ever want one, say, here, and then no joint, and then a joint here. It'll catch the eye and look a little goofy, and it makes for a weak spot in the floor there. You also don't want to, you see here there was a pattern starting where there was an offset. You don't want to create an offset and then an offset and then an offset. It's called stepping. It's sad. You don't want to do that. And for the most part, you want to have 6 inches This one here is more about 4, but you want to have about 6 inches for all of them overlap. Sometimes you won't be able to do that, but you try your best to be able to select the right style of wood. And it all depends on the different cut lengths in the boxes. For the most part, there's only 3 cut lengths in this product, but I have found a 4th one, but it seems to pop up really randomly, and it's an extra long one. So carry on nailing. When you're nailing, you avoid the edge. Right here, you just avoid the very edge, and then usually I avoid the edge by about 3 inches or so, and then every 6 inches you put your staple, and that'll make sure the floor is held down properly. I run out one length of this paper at a time, and then work, and then run out another one just so less damage is done, because you can already see here's a bit of scuff, and I'll need to put a little paper over that. So try to avoid that, and keep working your way through the room, and minding the gap along the edge. Good tip as well is watch your depth of your fasteners and set your regulator so the fasteners just slightly come below, but without distorting or damaging the tongue. In this particular application with this floor, we found around 50 psi on the regulator. Set these just nice so they wouldn't damage the tongue. Any more than that, and they started pushing the tongue in, and any less than that, the fastener was protruded. So we've been able to go along this floor pretty quickly here with the proper depth set, and we've been able to maintain that. The only time I had to change it was when the subfloor changed, which it changed in some areas, and things like that can change your pressure. So just make sure you maintain that. When you get to a wall, the easiest way to make your cut between here and the wall is normally your board to go like this, tongue to groove, flip it over so it's tongue facing tongue, line it up perfectly with the board on there, let your tongue overhang, and that gives you your expansion, and then mark your spot right there, and then take that, saw that, and that piece will fit in properly. A scrap piece of flooring for the correct height up to your jambs. Take your jam tool and cut all the way along, following, and then perfectly, when you install your piece, it'll slide right underneath when cut properly and give you a perfect finished edge here. So as you get close to the wall with your hardwood, you'll find that you can no longer fit the flooring stapler and be able to hit it with the hammer. For example here, see? Try hitting that. It won't even fit on there. Like, thanks for coming out. So this was the last course we were able to do. So luckily over here, I can pop a couple in because the door swings open. But over here we can't. So what we do on this course and the next one over the wall, just take our pass load, as much of a 45 as you can, and again every 6 inches, like this, making sure you push the boards together nice and tight while you do it, just like that. When you get to a corner, make sure you cut your board to fit nicely around the corner. Run the length, make your marks, keep your expansion gap, and run it just nicely around a corner. This is in the kitchen area where the cabinets couldn't be cut up, and ideally here we leave a small expansion gap, and then we fill this with a matching quarter round molding at a later time.